An innocent game, a golden field, a family that never could have imagined what was coming. In an instant, everything changed. Fear took over, and the desperate search began. What happened that afternoon? Who was lurking? And how did this case forever mark an entire country? The truth behind this mystery, you're about to find out. On July 1st, 2000, 8-year-old Sarah Payne was playing with her 3 siblings in a cornfield near her grandparents' house in Kingston Gorse, England. It was a sunny day, the kind that feels perfect for running and hiding among the tall corn stalks. Her parents, Michael and Jane, trusted that they'd be safe since they'd always played there without any issues. As they laughed and ran through the field, Sarah wandered a bit farther than usual. Her siblings heard her scream with excitement, like she'd found a great hiding spot. But as the minutes passed, she didn't come back. They called her name, but only the wind responded. Worried, her older brother Lee decided to search for her. He walked between the corn rows, feeling the air growing heavy. That's when, off in the distance, he saw something that made his blood run cold. A white van parked on the path. And next to it, a man with an unsettling smile was staring at him. Fear shot through Lee's body, but before he could react, the van sped off, disappearing in a matter of seconds. There was no sign of Sarah, just an eerie silence that hung over the field like a shadow. Something was terribly wrong. Running as fast as he could, Lee rushed to tell their parents. Desperation took over the family. They searched every inch of the cornfield, calling Sarah non-stop, but she didn't respond. The little girl, who had been so happy just moments before, seemed to have vanished without a trace. With hearts pounding, Michael and Jane called the police. Within minutes, officers arrived, but there was no sign of the little girl. The tracking dogs couldn't find any leads, and the night began to fall, wrapping the cornfield in a blanket of uncertainty. Neighbors and friends joined the search. Flashlights in hand and voices shaking, they combed the area, hoping to find some clue. But the only image stuck in Lee's mind was that strange man and his white van. Could it have just been a coincidence? Authorities began questioning the townspeople. No one remembered seeing the van before. The sense of unease spread. Could a little girl just disappear without a trace, like the cornfield had swallowed her up? As the night wore on, a dark certainty settled in the hearts of the Payne family. Sarah hadn't gotten lost. Someone had taken her. Sarah's case quickly became a top priority for the local police. Officers, neighbors, and volunteers joined forces to search every corner of the cornfield and the surrounding areas. Search teams worked day and night, hoping to find a clue. But time was running out, and the little girl still hadn't been found. Helicopters with thermal cameras flew over the area, trying to detect any suspicious movements. Tracking dogs sniffed every path, looking for any trace of Sarah. Divers searched nearby rivers and ponds, fearing the worst. But the search yielded no results, as if the little girl had simply vanished. Michael and Jane appeared on TV, pleading for any information. With tears in their eyes, her mother begged anyone who had Sarah to return her safe and sound. The image of the devastated family moved the entire country, turning the case into one of the most followed by the media. Meanwhile, the police clung to the only lead available: the white van and the unsettling man. The public was urged to report if they had seen a similar vehicle in the area. Calls started coming in, but none led to any concrete clues. With pressure mounting, investigators went through the list of sex offenders in the area. One name stood out: Roy Whiting. This man had a history of child abuse and lived near the area where Sarah was abducted. His criminal background made him a prime suspect. When the police questioned him, Whiting acted strangely. His answers were vague, and he avoided eye contact. He claimed he had been driving aimlessly the day of Sarah's disappearance, but his alibi had holes. There was no evidence to back up his story, which only increased suspicions. Officers searched his house and his van, but they didn't find any immediate evidence. Without concrete proof, they couldn't arrest him, though his behavior raised all kinds of red flags. However, the police knew they had to keep investigating. Something about him didn't add up. As the search continued, the Payne family's anguish became unbearable. Every day without news of Sarah was another blow to their hope. But deep down, Michael and Jane still believed their daughter was out there, waiting to be rescued. The whole country was on edge, following every new development in the case. Vigils and marches were organized, calling for justice, while the media pressured authorities to find answers. But time was running out, and every hour without Sarah only made people fear the worst. Despite the efforts, the little girl remained missing. But what no one expected was that the truth was closer than they thought. And when it finally came to light, it would reveal a story darker than anyone could have predicted. 17 days after Sarah's disappearance, a discovery sent shockwaves through all of England. In a remote field, several miles from the cornfield, charred human remains were found. The police rushed to the scene and, after conducting DNA tests, confirmed what everyone feared. It was Sarah Payne. The news hit the family like a devastating blow, as they had still clung to the hope that she'd be found alive. The entire country was shaken by the confirmation of her tragic fate. Michael Payne, Sarah's father, was called to identify the remains. The scene was heartbreaking. The man who had fought tirelessly to find his daughter collapsed in the face of the harsh reality. His wife, Jane, was in shock, unable to accept that their little girl would never come home. The community, which had come together in the search, now united in their grief. Sarah's case became a symbol of injustice and the vulnerability of children. As the family mourned their daughter, the police stepped up their investigation. All suspicions pointed back to Roy Whiting, whose behavior had been odd from the start. During interrogations, he had shown nervousness and contradictions in his alibi. To further raise suspicions, he had been arrested days earlier for attempting to steal a car. His arrest gave investigators time to gather more evidence against him. Detectives revisited the white van Lee had described. This time, with a more detailed analysis, they found fibers and hair traces in the vehicle. Forensic tests confirmed they belonged to Sarah. This meant that at some point, the girl had been inside Whiting's van. It was the proof they needed to link him to the crime. The web of suspicion was tightening around him. Roy Whiting's criminal record made it clear that he was no ordinary man. In the past, he had been convicted of child abuse and had served time in prison. However, after his release, he remained a threat. Despite his past, laws at the time didn't allow the public to know about his history. Outrage grew when it was revealed that someone so dangerous had been walking free. The press and the public demanded answers. How could a man with such a dark history roam without supervision? Sarah's parents, devastated but determined, began speaking out about the need for legal changes. They didn't want any other family to go through the same pain. Sarah's death, though tragic, was about to become the driving force behind a fight for children's protection. In court, Whiting maintained his innocence. He claimed he had nothing to do with the crime, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. The van, the fibers, his criminal history, and his evasive answers during the investigation pointed directly at him. Prosecutors worked hard to build a solid case. They couldn't let this crime go unpunished. Meanwhile, the emotional toll on the Payne family was devastating. Michael, unable to cope with the loss, began sinking into alcoholism. Jane, though broken, decided to channel her pain into the fight for justice. Sarah Payne's case left an indelible mark on British society. The image of the bright-eyed, innocent girl became a reminder of the dangers lurking for the most vulnerable. Whiting's trial was approaching, and the anticipation was immense. Sarah's family, along with the entire community, hoped for justice. But the process would be long and painful. Every new detail about the crime made the horror even more unbearable. But this story wasn't over yet. Something big was about to come from this tragedy. Sarah's case not only revealed the cruelty of one man, but also the flaws in the system. Her death would become the catalyst for an important legal change. From the darkness of tragedy, a new hope would rise to protect other children from future predators. Sarah's name wouldn't be forgotten, and her story would continue to resonate in everyone's memory. With solid forensic evidence, Roy Whiting was finally arrested. The fibers from Sarah's shoe and her hair, found in the van, tied him directly to the crime. There was no way out. The police grilled him with more questioning, but he kept denying everything. Still, the case against him was getting stronger by the minute. Even though Sarah's family was devastated, they just wanted to see justice served. Whiting's trial kicked off in 2001, capturing the attention of all of the UK. The prosecutors laid out every piece of evidence with pinpoint accuracy, showing how the killer had tried to cover his tracks. The details of the case were downright chilling. It was proven that Whiting had even modified his van to avoid leaving any evidence behind. Every testimony against him only sank him deeper. Despite all the evidence, Whiting stuck to his claims of innocence. His lawyers tried to plant doubts, but it was hard to refute the overwhelming proof. The media cameras caught every reaction from the Payne family. Jane, strong and determined, never took her eyes off the courtroom. She knew that, while nothing could bring Sarah back, justice had to prevail. After weeks of trial, the verdict finally came down. Roy Whiting was found guilty of kidnapping and murdering Sarah Payne. The sentence was clear: life behind bars with no chance of parole. The news brought both relief and heartbreak. Even though the monster was locked up, the wound in the family would never fully heal. But Sarah's mother wasn't about to stop there. Jane Payne decided to channel her pain into a fight for child protection. Teaming up with activists, she began pushing for changes to British laws. Her goal was crystal clear: no other child should ever fall into the hands of predators like Whiting. Her battle was just getting started. That's how the Sarah Law was born, inspired by similar initiatives in the United States. This new legislation would let parents access information about sex offenders in their communities. Previously, those records were sealed, leaving many kids at risk. Jane was determined to ensure that no other family would have to live through the nightmare she did. The road to passing the law wasn't easy. There was resistance from some quarters, arguing about privacy and individual rights. But the public support was overwhelming. Thousands of people took to the streets, demanding that children's safety be the top priority. Sarah's image became a symbol in the fight against impunity. Finally, in 2008, the Sarah Law was implemented across the UK. Now parents could check if any sex offenders were living nearby. It was a victory, but Jane knew the battle against child abuse would never truly end. Still, she had managed to turn horror into something positive. Sarah Payne's case not only locked up a murderer, but it also changed the British legal system. Her name was immortalized in a law that protects thousands of children. Even though her family would always miss her, they knew her story had saved many lives. Her fight had not been in vain. Roy Whiting's conviction brought a brief moment of relief, but the pain never went away. The Payne family had to learn how to live with Sarah's absence. Her room remained untouched for years, a shrine of memories. Michael and Jane tried to move on, but every anniversary brought the nightmare rushing back. The void left by their daughter was impossible to fill. Devastated by the loss, Michael Payne spiraled into deep sorrow. He tried to stay strong for his other kids, but the pain was unbearable. He turned to alcohol as a way to numb his grief. His marriage with Jane also suffered, strained by the constant pain and the ongoing fight for justice. Sarah's murder tore their family apart irreversibly. In 2014, Michael Payne passed away from complications related to alcoholism. His death was a stark reminder of the unbearable burden he carried for years. Friends and family mourned him, remembering him as a loving father crushed by tragedy. On the other hand, Jane found the strength to transform her suffering into activism. After Sarah's murder, Jane devoted her life to child protection campaigns. She became a tireless activist, fighting so that no other child would suffer the same fate. Her voice was crucial in getting the Sarah Law passed. Amidst her grief, she found a purpose: to ensure that her daughter's memory would save lives. The impact of the Sarah Law was huge. Many parents started using their right to access information about local sex offenders. Thanks to this change, countless cases of abuse were prevented. Sarah couldn't be saved, but her story stopped other children from falling into the hands of predators. Her name became a symbol of protection and justice. British media kept following the case over the years. Documentaries, books, and news reports all kept Sarah's memory alive. Jane gave countless interviews, always stressing the importance of raising awareness about crimes against children. Her activism even crossed borders, inspiring similar measures in other countries. Locking up Whiting didn't bring complete peace to the family, but it did ensure he would never hurt another child again. He remained behind bars, isolated and even shunned by other inmates. His cold-blooded brutality made him one of the most hated criminals in the country. His conviction was a reminder that justice, even if delayed, must be served. Sarah Payne, the little girl with an easy smile, will never be forgotten. Her siblings grew up carrying the pain of her loss, but also the pride of their mother's fight. Every action taken for child safety carries a piece of her story. Her name, etched into the law, shines as a beacon in the darkness of tragedy. The cornfield where Sarah once played was never the same. The silence there echoes with the memory of a child full of life, cruelly ripped from her family. But despite the sadness, her memory lives on, not just in the pain, but in the change her story brought to the world. Sarah's tragedy taught us that the fight against impunity can never stop. Every child deserves to grow up safe, without the fear of monsters like Whiting. And as long as there are people willing to fight, Sarah's legacy will endure. Her story wasn't just about a brutal crime, it was the spark for a revolution in child protection.